In the mist-covered hills of ancient Britannia, long before the Romans' iron legions marched through the land, there was a forgotten corner where the very earth seemed to whisper with secrets. This place was Caledonia, the wild, untamed northern frontier, where the Romans dared not tread. Here the ancient tribes, fierce and untamed, worshipped old gods and spirits, and feared no conqueror. The year was 119 AD. The Romans, under the command of General Gaius Aurelius, had ventured far into the northern territories of Britain. Their legions had already crushed the southern tribes, and they now sought to expand their empire into the dark heart of the north. But the Romans knew there were dangers here that went beyond the battle-hardened Celts, a dark, ancient force that thrived in the mists of Caledonia. It began as a simple mission. Aurelius was to crush the northern tribes, known as the Caledonia, and bring them under Roman rule. The legions, battle-hardened and disciplined, marched north through the fog, the soil beneath their boots sinking into the marshy ground, their armor clanking with every step. But something was wrong. In the dense forest of trees, the Romans heard strange sounds, the high-pitched screech of creatures that could not be explained, the rustle of unseen movement. The soldiers' torches flickered like dying stars, and the cold fog rolled over them like a living thing. On the second night, Aurelius received word from his scouts. They had encountered a small group of Caledoni, and a fight had broken out. The Romans had easily overwhelmed them. But when they returned to camp, the scouts spoke of something horrifying, something that didn't belong to this world. The bodies of the slain Caledoni were mutilated beyond recognition. Their faces had been frozen in terror, but their eyes were wide, staring not at the Romans, but at something else, something in the dark woods. "General," one scout stammered. They were not alone. Something with them. Aurelius had heard the tales, the legends of the spirits that haunted Caledonia. The wild tribes spoke of the Modaci, ancient, malevolent beings that could manipulate the fog, control the shadows, and twist the minds of men. But Aurelius dismissed them as superstition. He was a Roman. He feared no spirit, no ghost. The next day, the Romans marched deeper into the hills. As they set up camp, the darkness seemed to close in around them, thicker than any fog they'd seen before. In the distance, shadows moved, but when soldiers went to investigate, they found nothing. That night, the horrors began. The first to fall was Centurion Marcus, a seasoned veteran. He had been standing watch when something called his name, soft, like a whisper, but unmistakable. When he turned toward the sound, a shadowed figure, pale and gaunt, with empty eyes and a mouth twisted in a cruel grin, stepped from the fog. The creature's skin was almost translucent, its body unnaturally thin. With a single swipe, it tore through Marcus's armor, plunging its hand deep into his chest, pulling out his heart as though it were a toy. The Romans were terrified. But there was no retreat. The Modaci had come for them, and no Roman sword could banish them. The soldiers tried to fight back, but for every man who fell, the shadows seemed to grow stronger. They began to hear whispers in the mist, voices from the dead, urging them to surrender, to give in. The soldiers' minds began to unravel, one by one. They saw their comrades' faces twisted in agony, their bodies risen from the earth, reanimated by the dark force. Some soldiers screamed as the very air seemed to shift, their breath growing colder, their hearts slowing. General Aurelius, driven by a mixture of rage and fear, ordered a full retreat. But as they attempted to flee, they found that the mists had trapped them. The fog rolled in faster than they could run, closing in like a tightening noose. The shadows danced, twisting and writhing in ways that no mortal eyes could comprehend. And then it happened. The ground beneath them trembled. The earth cracked open, and from the chasm emerged a massive, ancient tree, its roots like serpents, its bark blackened and covered in grotesque runes. The Caledoni, long thought to be dead, rose from the earth, their bodies now part of the tree. Their eyes burned with a malevolent light, and their skin was like ash. It was the Modaci, not merely spirits, but an ancient cult of the Caledoni, bound to the land itself. The Romans had unwittingly trespassed upon their sacred ground, and now they would pay the price. In the final moments, Aurelius saw the truth. The Modaci were not mere ghosts, but something older, something far more terrifying. They were the children of the land, born of earth and shadow, and they had been waiting for the Romans to come, waiting for this moment to claim the souls of the invaders and drag them into the dark depths of the earth. The last thing the Romans saw was the red glow of the tree's eyes, and the shadow of their own doom consuming them. When the mists finally cleared, nothing remained of General Aurelius or his legions. The earth had swallowed them whole. The only sign that the Romans had ever marched through Caledonia was a faint, lingering whisper on the wind, and the eyes that burned with an eternal hunger, watching from the dark. The tribes of Caledonia, untouched by the empire's reach, whispered of the Modoci for generations to come, and the Romans were forgotten, their bones scattered across the hills, swallowed by the shadows forever.